Today, guys, we're going to be taking another cheeky look at XRP. We'll be taking a look at the dashboard that was held by 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗠𝗠𝗘 to take a look at what that artificial intelligence is telling us about XRP from a liquidity point of view, fear and greed index, risk to rewards, and all that good stuff. We'll be having a look at some of the recent news that is out there for XRP in terms of what is going on with the CTO lashing out at Uniswap, what is going on with the ODL, and potentially some copycats going on. We'll also have a look at the chart both on the weekly, hourly, and daily chart to show us exactly what we think is going to be happening here with XRP in both the short term and the long term. Now, Chris, before we get into all of this, is there anything else that you feel that you want to add before we jump on down and get into absolutely everything XRP?
Yeah, really interested to get everybody's views and opinions on the old argument about centralized versus decentralized. And I know we're going to touch on this and give our views and opinions later on in the video, but yeah, do let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are and which side of the fence you sit on. If you sit on one of the two sides, that is.
Fantastic, guys. As we get into this, if you find this video useful, informative, then do go ahead and hit that like button. We both really do appreciate it. And of course, if you happen to be new to the channel, then do go ahead and subscribe. By subscribing, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything we do here. It is free. You'll stay well informed. Hit the bell, tap on all, and you won't miss a single video. Right, with that said and out of the way, let's jump on down and get right into this technical analysis.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, guys, here we are on the 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗠𝗠𝗃 dashboard. And what we can see here is several key things that are going to be informing us what is going on when it comes to XRP. So in the top left-hand corner here, we have the fear and greed index. This is not just the generalized fear and greed index. This is the fear and greed index specifically for XRP and is data-driven from artificial intelligence. So ultimately, this gives us a bit of an unbiased view as to what, or how much, I should say, fear is in the space when it comes to XRP. So this is actually rated as a grade D, which is the worst rating that's possible. And this kind of makes sense considering the sentiment in the market at the moment. Most of these altcoins are actually reflected like this, right? They ultimately have a lot of amount of fear in the space, and it is being represented in these coins. So it doesn't surprise us that actually XRP here does have a large amount of fear. With that being said, we're starting to see a little bit of a rise here just recently. If I zoom right in on this little section here, we can start to see that there's a bit of a rise here when it comes to the fear. So it's actually moving now from extreme fear, as it was at the start of the month, up to a little bit higher here, which will be fear, moving into a gradual better rating over time. So things are looking like they're getting better as June has progressed so far. So this is something we need to be paying attention to understand whether or not the generalized fear and greed index in the space is representing what our altcoins are actually performing like. So for this example here, it's still rated as a D. So ultimately, it's still very, very fearful, but it does look like it's getting a bit of a recovery. So we'll be monitoring that situation closely. Now, over here on the right-hand side, we have the 𝗕𝗕 ratio. The 𝗕𝗕 ratio shows us all about the liquidity aspects when it comes to XRP. And right now, this is actually rated as a C2. So not the worst, but definitely not the best either. So right away, we can see that there potentially are some liquidity issues. They're not as bad as some other projects, but it definitely could do with it being improved. And I think a lot of this comes down to a lot of these exchanges potentially stopping and halting trading and withdrawals and deposits, etc. So we have to be a little bit mindful that the liquidity is usually something that's hard to get control of once it gets out of control. So it does take a bit of time to get that corrected. So right now, where we are in terms of the 𝗕𝗕 ratio here, it is showing that we have a C2 rating. So again, something to be mindful of, because ultimately when you have a fear and greed index the way that it is today, with an 𝗕𝗕 ratio where it is as well, it does have a knock-on effect to our Sharpe ratio. And the Sharpe ratio for XRP at this particular point in time is also a grade D. Okay, so this grade D for the Sharpe ratio is showing us a risk to the rewards. So by investing in XRP, there is a greater risk right now than maybe there were previously. Now, this being said, this is heavily influenced by that liquidity issue and also the amount of fear that's in the space. And again, it's really hard to kind of get a good grasp on all of these different metrics. specifically when they are not really easily visible on your regular kind of charting. So it's good to have some kind of way to actually monitor this and see how the performance of each of these ratios in basically power factors are performing. So for us right here, we can see that actually we had this fantastic moment over here when we were above our red line and we've just dropped below it. With this being said, though, there is a bit of an increase. So we can just zoom in again. Here we can see that how we dropped below our red line just here during that kind of, big correction for Bitcoin. And since this particular correction, we are trying to get a bit of a correction back to the upside to get above this line. And as that happens, that Sharpe ratio will start to increase and show less risk in terms of those rewards. Now over here on the right, left-hand side, I should say, we have the profitability, right? So the return on investment. And this is actually showing us that this is an absolute stellar level here at an A1 rating. So this is fantastic. So basically the profitability and the return on investment for XRP has actually been held up very, very well. And again, this is data driven from that artificial intelligence and machine learning. So it's not biased in any way. It's just got a fantastic return on investment there. So again, when we start coupling all of these kind of power factors together, it kind of gives us an overall rating of a C1. So definitely up there as one of the strong contenders right now. And again, we can just hop over to the crypto assets here, click on all. And what we'll do is we'll just rank this by market capitalization. So again, we can actually see that Bitcoin is rated as a C2. We have Ethereum at C1. Binance coins at C2. Cardano is a B3, which is fantastic. We have Dogecoin C1 and Ripple XRP here at C1 as well. So right now, we can say that XRP is just below that of Cardano's ADA, but above that of Binance coin, for example, or also above that of Uniswap, above of Bitcoin, right? So ultimately, when you start seeing it this way, where you're going to potentially be wanting to build or weight your portfolios, you can use this data to really help drive that. So it's good to understand where Ripple currently sits in the grand kind of scheme of things. Now, with that being said, and we did just mention Uniswap, it's probably important to bring this piece up, right? So Ripple CTO, Uniswap is not DeFi. It's not decentralized. And again, it's taken, I believe, to Twitter at this point. So recent tweet from David, Ripple's chief technology officer, took a swipe at red-hot automated market maker Uniswap, claiming that Ethereum's killer app is not decentralized. So here's the quote, right, for anyone who hasn't seen this yet. But Uniswap v3 is not DeFi. If some person or group has an enforceable legal right to tell others how they can and can't use it, it's not decentralized. So basically, David believes the protocol is centralized because it's controlled by Uniswap Labs. They get to choose where it runs, which is sufficient to provide total control. And the executive also mentions that he had built the very first decentralized exchange on XRP Ledger back in 2012, together with Ripple co-founder 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘. So again, fantastic stuff on that front, but also, the fact that he's calling this out, it's an interesting kind of take on it. We'll have to see if that kind of develops into anything more than what it is. I think ultimately when it comes to money in general in this kind of space, and what Chris was talking about earlier, what side of the camp do you sit on? Are you the has to be decentralized, or do you even really mind that it's decentralized? I think a lot of times when it comes to money and profitability, this is one of those compromises that people tend to make over personal gain very, very easily, and they do not mind so much. So let us know in the comments below whether you are, in the kind of camp of decentralization, do not care, or maybe you just generally have no opinion on it whatsoever. But yeah, let us know in the comments. It'll be an interesting one. So again, we'll have to see how that develops out in time. Now, we've got a couple of additional pieces here. Just want to lightly touch on these. Ripple announces a new ODL corridors, and it also slams bank for inefficient cross-border payments in its new report. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but you kind of get the idea here. As tweet, the SMEs are increasingly reliant on cross-border payments, yet 71% say that these payments are problematic. Download our report to learn out more. So do check that out if you're really interested to know what's going on there with all of that kind of stuff. But there are some pretty interesting highlights that might make it a little bit more interesting. So again, not going to really get in too deep on this kind of side of stuff in this video, but definitely worth checking it out if you're wanting to understand more what's going on with those ODLs and with banks in general. Now, obviously, on the back of that, does come across this piece, which is the Ripple's Director of Development Relations accuses Strike of copying the ODL. And again, I'm not going to go into this in detail, but basically we have here in a recent tweet, Matt Hamilton, Director of Developer Relations at Ripple, claims that Jack basically his killer app took notes from the company's on-demand liquidity solution, formerly known as XRP. The ODL allows instantly bridging fiat currencies, which help with XRP's cryptocurrency, with the help of XRP cryptocurrency. So yeah, it's an interesting piece. Obviously, Strike then takes the Bitcoins and automatically converts them back to USDT, synthetic dollars. Obviously, everyone knows that by Tether, using its real-time automated risk management and trading infrastructure. So ultimately, what they're saying is they kind of copied the XRP or the ODL, the on-demand liquidity solution, to create this. So we'll see how that one develops. Maybe lawsuits, who knows? But it's an interesting piece that we should obviously be aware of. Now, obviously, we've spoken a little bit around what's going on from an 𝗕𝗙's platform and the technical data with XRP. We obviously have an understanding as to what's going on with some of those boards of directors, right? So let's talk now about what our expectations are with price. So this here is XRP to the USDT. This is the weekly chart. It's always good to make sure that you're zoomed out so you understand the bigger picture. And here, obviously, this data source is Binance. Now, I've quickly marked up the next target for where we're thinking XRP should be pushed up towards. And again, we can see the current kind of correction here, which is Bitcoin in this particular week, where we currently are performing just here. And due to popular demand, we have actually now removed those moving averages and replaced them with EMAs. And again, so we'll have a look at that, and just quickly to make sure everyone's aware, we have a 200, a 20, and a 50-day EMA. So they're on here now, so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on there. Other than that, we have got some Bollinger Bands, but I'll take those off for now, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So ultimately, guys, what you're seeing here is this motion to the upside and this pullback, which was kind of expected. Okay, you cannot stay up forever. You have to have some kind of pullback, and obviously, this kind of correction was kind of a bit of a shock to many people, specifically if you're buying up here. But ultimately, this is likely to get that kind of push to the upside, and the next target that we have here set for XRP, and I'll get into why this is in a moment, is set up there at $2.79. Okay, that's the next target, just short of our all-time high level here, which was $3.84. Now, during this motion, obviously, clearly see there's an upward trend here. And I'll quickly just draw that on so you get an idea of where that's currently going, right? So clearly there's an upward trend here. And again, you could easily just pop that there. You can get the idea, right? There's an upward trend that's very, very clear to see from this weekly chart. And again, this is something that you can also see from the upper end here as well, right? So again, you can draw this line on here, and you can see how this kind of connects instantly to some of these other wicks that we're having down here as well. So right now you have this upper band, you obviously have that lower band, and again, I'll just quickly draw that on so you get that true picture as to representing where XRP is likely to go. Okay, so we know there's an upward trend here, and it's quite hard to hide from that when you're zoomed out into that weekly view. Obviously, you have these kind of corrections. Okay, and the narrative at the time, this particular narrative here was obviously this was the lawsuit, but this particular correction was worse than what was over here. And again, we weren't calling a bear market at this time, but obviously we are calling a bear market here because Bitcoin fell down, right? And it wasn't something that was outside of Bitcoin, right? So narratives changed, but ultimately that trend line hasn't changed. It's actually supported that trend line all the way through. So again, things are still looking very, very bullish here for XRP, and our expectations are that the XRP during this lawsuit it's going to most likely settle. If it doesn't settle, then it's my opinion that the SEC will most likely lose. So a settlement is in their best interest. And again, this is going to be hugely damaging to the SEC, right? So once all that is kind of put down and put to bed, I think the SEC will try to call the settlement a win, save face, and obviously allow them to continue. They might put stipulations in that settlement that will basically mean that they can still go after other cryptocurrencies. If they do lose this case, it's going to have huge impact for the SEC, and they're going to really struggle to move forward in regulating in the way that they have been, which I don't think is a bad thing, with the crypto space, right? So ultimately, the way that they have been portraying themselves, or the way they've been actually trying to use their enforcement actions, are a very lazy approach, and they've been building cases very, very poorly and attacking people who cannot afford to defend themselves. They've actually picked a fight that I think that they are going to struggle to win, because they actually this Ripple themselves, they have the money to be actually fight this thing and potentially win it. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. I think it'll most likely it'll be a settlement, and when that happens, this thing is going to absolutely surge. And this over here is the Fibonacci retracement tool that indicates exactly where things are likely to go once this settlement comes to an end. And again, this thing puts this up here towards that real high area here of like $13.50 up to $15. That's the upper band. Now, again, this could actually surge much, much higher than this. And again, we could start seeing some very significant levels here up towards that $67 level. Now, again, that's under best case scenario, but we obviously have to make everyone aware that there are possibilities that it goes higher than this $15 range. This is kind of like the lower end of where I think it's likely to go. Again, it could obviously exceed all of that. Now, what we're going to do here, guys, is actually talk about our next target, right? So now we're thinking more short term rather than long term. We're going to jump down from our weekly view and jump into our daily view. Okay, so our daily view here shows us a bit more of what we're actually expecting to happen right away. So here we can see, you know, what's been going on in the last kind of month or so. And obviously we have this downward trend, we had this upward trend, and right now we're at that crucial moment where we are basically getting trapped inside this triangular wedge, where a break up or a breakdown is most likely to happen by basically tomorrow. Okay, guys, so one of these trend lines will succeed, and it'll either be a break up to the upside or a break down to the downside. Now, when we look at this daily chart, it shows us that our relative strength index down here is actually really quite low. It's at 40, right? So it hasn't got too much room to fall to the downside. With that being said, there is good strong support here actually forming at 75.5 cent. And if we were to break down, then actually that's going to be probably the area that we'll only be able to fall down to, because we'll be oversold by that point and it will get the reversal. So if we were to break down, we won't fall too far and we'll be able to then pick up the pieces again until we get another attempt to actually go ahead and push to the upside and have the break up. Okay, so right now, if a breakdown does happen, we haven't got far to fall, which is a good positive. Now, if we do have the break up to the upside, however, we do have this upper area of resistance up there at about $1.07. So again, we're going to struggle to get past here. And considering our current position on this daily, there's still huge potential to push this to the upside. So we'll have to watch that quite closely. This little yellow box that we have on the chart just here, this is the area that we want to push into and push on through. This is absolutely vital. We need to go straight past this level here. In a closed candle, preferably the weekly closed candle above this area, is going to be vital in pushing up to this next price target of $2.79. It cannot happen if we do not get a good solid closed candle above this area with a back test to confirm that this area is now a support line. Lots of resistance here, so we have to be very, very careful with how we go through here, and everything has to be lined up nicely in order to get the best traction to push to the upside. With that being said, there is a good strong possibility here, guys, that we can go up to these levels. Now, we can grab hold of this and we'll just throw this down here for a second. And this is how we kind of get to our price target, okay? So right away, we can see that our 1.618 Fibonacci area comes up here at $2.79, and that's our target, right? So our very first price target here is just after that previous high, okay? So we're looking to break through here, a good solid close here with it just above our yellow box would help trigger a push on through. Now, obviously, our 786 has got a major resistance line. It is going to be a bit of a struggle. It's not going to be one foul swoop. It's not going to be quick and easy, but we are going to go through here and, at least in my opinion, go and get that $2.79 target accomplished. Obviously, from there, a back test is most likely. We'll end up testing some of those previous resistance lines and turning them into support. So this is how you get to that kind of price target here of $2.79. Now, obviously, this is kind of the daily. Sometimes it's even better to take a look at that hourly view. The hourly view shows us some of the real clarity of what's going on. Okay, so here we can see how our downward trend and our upward trend have been performing recently. We can see this being quite key areas. And again, from our weekly view, we know that this upward trend has been going on for a very, very long time. And these are just testing areas here. So right now, a breakdown from our relatively high area of the relative strength index. We cannot pass this area, in my opinion. We are more than likely going to come back down and retest the lower band here. Okay, this is going to be vital in order to get that good push to the upside. So ultimately, guys, what we need to kind of see happen is push a little bit higher, have the fall back down to the lower band here, couple taps on, and then break to the upside. Okay, that's the vital way of doing it. And in doing it this way, we push the relative strength index a little bit higher before bringing the relative strength index to a good key level down at the bottom here to then go ahead and push back to the upside. That break up from the bottom area of the relative strength index whilst testing this area of support here, it'll be the vital move that you need to see to help push the XRP price out of this downward trend and up to the upside. So again, guys, the next couple of hours are going to be absolutely vital to see this kind of unfold. We're expecting this to fall back down, and then we're expecting that breakup moment to happen. Okay, well, obviously, you know, it doesn't always flow this way. Sometimes being as high as we are on this relative strength index, if we do push any higher, we could actually invalidate this upward trend. But again, with that being said, this upward trend line has been going for quite a while, so it's going to be quite hard to actually break. With that being said, there's a good strong support line just down here at the bottom at 75.5 cent. So again, loads of room here to take advantage of. And if we have to adjust our upward trend line, we can do that. We'll have to see if it still is valid or invalid. But my expectations, guys, are actually that we'll just pull back just enough. Considering where we were at this point here, we could pull back just enough here to have a good motion to the upside. A good breakup from the out of this kind of triangular wedge here would really set this thing apart moving further forward. Now, if I throw on those Bollinger Bands, guys, let me see if that goes on. Here we go. What else can we see here? Well, we're seeing a breakout of this moment right now, right? So we're having a bit of a squeeze within those Bollinger Bands. We can see the breakthrough here as we got past those EMAs as well, with both the 20, the 50, and I think it's the 200, isn't it? Bollinger Bands. We just check, guys. Yeah, it's the 200 EMA, the 20 EMA, and the 50 EMA. We broke through all of those, but we're actually pushing this upper band, right? So right now we know there's going to be resistance being found here. So we know we're going to likely to fall back down. We'll fall back down and we'll find good support around here, hopefully. And then that should be the trigger that sends XRP off to the upside. So some fantastic things are looking on the horizon when it comes to XRP within this triangular formation, and things are definitely looking like they're going to have a breakdown on the short term. And again, that kind of short-term outlook will be very short-lived, believe it or not, and will actually be going, in my opinion, to the upside once again, and breaking and invalidating this downward trend altogether. So guys, if we go back up into our weekly view, it's always good to know where we have been, where we are going, where our targets are, where our all-time highs was achieved back in 2017-18, and obviously where our price expectations are for the total peak of the bull run. And again, this could be susceptible to change considering external factors. So again, nice to have some good targets for that longer term piece or that medium term piece. And again, thinking about everything that Ripple are doing with their ODL and everything else that's kind of going on in the space. We're very mindful of what's happening with the SEC lawsuit. But obviously with everything that we've spoken about from EVI, Uniswap, through to ODL corridors, and of course, you know, copycats kind of copying the ODL. There's a lot on the horizon here when it comes to XRP. Now, Chris, I've been through a reasonable amount of data here for XRP, right? We've been through the EVI dashboard. We've looked at the fear and greed, the liquidity issues. We've looked at the risks to rewards. We've obviously had a look at various different pieces of news, along with obviously the charts and our expectations for both the short term, medium term, and long term. But anything else that you want to add from a fundamental point of view?
I guess this is probably one of the projects that could break out based on the lawsuit, right? And break away and away from Bitcoin, really. So it's an interesting one. Really looking forward to seeing how everything sort of transpires. Really bullish on XRP.
Fantastic. So guys, if you found this video useful, informative, do go ahead and hit that like button. We both really do appreciate that. And of course, if you happen to be new to the channel and you'd like to stay up to date with the new cryptocurrencies, hidden gems, technical analysis, and news, then why not go ahead and subscribe? By subscribing, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything we do here. Hit the bell, tap on all notifications, and you won't miss a single thing. With that said, done and out of the way, guys, we hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll catch you all in the next one.
Yeah, take care.